When you feeling, no matter the emotion, is expressive of being alive. It's you being alive. How wonderful is that? That your body and all your faculties can connect to each other, mind, body, and spirit, to express itself as alive. It's beautiful. And so as it relates to your healing journey, it's beautiful.
Here we grow again, our hearts on the mend. What I want is what I want is what I want. Soft spaces.
Welcome to Softspaces podcast. This is the place where I share a little bit of me to connect with a little bit of you and create a community of wholeness together. I'm glad you're here. My name's Yolanda Lewis and I am the host. Have you ever been through trauma and you doing your best to heal? I mean, your absolute complete best. You're trying all the modalities, you're doing all the things, getting into the right places, and are nothing but exhausted. This is the part, that part, right? People don't always talk about the exhaustive part of dealing with trauma. So today I want to affirm what you feel in your healing process, in your healing journey. You feel tired, it's okay. I want to affirm for you that it is normal to feel like you want to take a break from it all when you're going through that place of trauma. A lot of the people that I have helped and coached on a mentorship level go through this space of feeling like they gotta keep up. Let's take a step back. Let's define what trauma is. My favorite definition of trauma comes from Dr. Gabriel Maté, where he describes trauma as not the thing that happened to you, but the response of your body based on what happened to you. Naturally, I'm paraphrasing. Why I love this definition of trauma so much is because it doesn't limit the idea of trauma. Meaning, if you go through a traumatic experience and you don't feel like or have not classified it as trauma, you may not use the tools, the right tools that are actually going to shift you from the place of experiencing this trauma to the place of journeying toward healing. So then everything gets skipped and you're living your life the best you can with no tools and even more trauma because of the message your body is trying to tell you through headaches, through anxiety, even in that moment, through bouts of depression, through overeating, through too much drinking, through isolation, and all of the ways that we can separate ourselves from being able to journey toward a healed place. So in this soft space, what I want you to explore today as you're going about your day is how can you create a soft space for your healing process? Where is the softness? Where is the place that you can be the most vulnerable? Where is the place that you can cry where no one is going to judge you and call you names or label you as weak or a baby or rush you through that emotion because they're uncomfortable with you feeling it? They don't have capacity to hold you while you process. So instead, the response from the other person could be to deflect and rush you with tissues and rush you with trying to make you laugh and rush you away from the emotion just running through your body. Can we talk about emotion for a minute? Emotions are energy in motion. They are the secret language that I believe God designed for our bodies to be able to connect with our mind. That bridge between mind and body is emotion. And so you want to understand the emotion. You want the emotion to pass through you. You want the emotion to not get stuck somewhere in your body, where if it's stuck in your throat and you feel like you literally can't breathe. Have you ever felt like that? Like you literally were in a situation where you could not breathe because the emotion, or like you had a frog in your throat. You ever felt that? Energy in motion, and that is energy stuck in motion. It needs to come out in the same way that as we are processing food, waste comes out. Don't worry, I won't get too graphic. Emotions need to process in the same way so our full body can be integrated into the healing experience. So you don't go off living life in a place where only your mind is quote unquote healed. In my own journey, I've experienced where when it comes to my weight loss, so I have gone through all kind of weight challenges in my adult life. When I was younger, I didn't have any weight challenges. I was thin and slim and trim and sassy and sexy, but wasn't aware of any of it. Then when I became an adult, I was very aware, but I also looked very different. And in part, that was kind of traumatic, that shift into womanhood. If anybody can relate, holla at your girl. So that shift into womanhood, maybe men go through the same thing. If you're a guy, let us know. Like, do y'all go through the same thing where you have to shift into your manhood? So for a woman, part of her shift, I would say a large part of her shift into womanhood is connected to her body. And your body is connected to your emotions. How you care for your body has a lot to do with how you think, as well as how you feel. For a woman, the change and the transformation that you go through happens a lot in your body. And what I found in my journey was that I never had to care for my body, so I never paid attention to it. And here's why I never had to care. On the outside, I made sure that I always looked the part. Always. Hair done, nails done, everything done. My clothes, everything, right? I always made sure to look the part. The reason behind that was so that no one would ever ask me if I was okay. Because if you look good, the assumption is that you feel good. However, I had learned how to look good, even if I didn't feel good, so that I wouldn't be seen. I didn't want to be seen from my own trauma experience, sexual trauma I experienced in my childhood. Helped me to understand that it wasn't good to be seen, because if you were seen, then somehow you might get in trouble for this bad thing that happened to you. And so to avoid all of that, I disappeared. Actually, let me tell you about the first day I disappeared. The first time I disappeared was after my first sexually traumatic experience. Let me just lay it all out for you. I was going to try to skip around and shorten the story, but I can't. So I was at my grandmother's house because my baby sister, one of them, was being born. And there, a family member brought me into the other room and proceeded to take advantage of me. And so in the midst of that happening, he was called into the other room, and I was able to escape the room before he came back to finish, because that kind of interrupted his process, which was good, but the damage was already done. So I was able to escape into the other room, and the next thing I remember was sitting in the living room. It must have been days later, and I don't know what happened in between that time. I don't remember, could have blacked out, I'm not sure. However, the next thing I remember is sitting in that living room, and everyone doting over my new baby sister, even me. I adored her being there. I was excited. My mom had promised me that I was going to have a sister. And so this was the time that my sister was here, a playmate. That's how she described it to me. I didn't know she was going to come out with short legs, being a baby, not being able to play with me, but I digress. So I was sitting in that living room, approximately 3.5 years old, a little over 3.5, about to turn 4 in a few months. And something said to me, no one noticed. Like, no one noticed. And they weren't supposed to notice, per se, right? Baby sister was just being bored. People aren't paying attention to or looking for the negative. No one was looking for the negative. No one had experienced what I had experienced, so they didn't know any of the signs, of which all of them I was showing. As I later studied child psychology, I learned, little things like wearing clothes all the way up to your neck, and because I liked it like that. It was about security. I didn't know that then. I just thought I liked it, but it was about security. I felt safe when my clothes were all the way on and I was all the way covered. That's one of the signs of many. And so fast or rewind to this particular moment, I heard a voice say, well, it was my voice. I heard myself say, no one noticed you. And matter of fact, now, because no one noticed, and no one saved you, no one rescued you, we want to keep it that way, because obviously if nobody noticed, that means what happened was bad. And now I'm carrying the shame of this experience that really wasn't mine to own. And that was the moment I disappeared. That was the moment that I learned you don't have to be here to be here. So fast forward into my adulthood, it was easy to look the part, but have conversations in the background that were not kind, that were promoting trauma and rehearsing trauma in ways that was not a part of a healing journey, and in ways that separated me from my actual body. Because in order to disappear and show up and be here but not be here, I had to disconnect from the thing that would connect it all, which was my emotions. And the first time after that I felt emotion, or that I realized, I should say it this way, that I realized that I was not connected to my emotion, was a girlfriend I had met through someone else. We did some work together. She passed away, and I got the call that she passed away, and I was sad for her family and for the friend that introduced us. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman, gorgeous inside out. I didn't get to know her outside of the experience of us working together, but I did get to know her through that experience, and we were looking forward to doing more work together. So I got the call that she had passed away, and I was fixing my curtains. And as I was fixing my curtains, I felt wetness in the corner of my eye. And I was like, oh, wow, my eye is wet. My goodness, what is this? And I just wiped it away. And so I called actually my mom to tell her that this person had passed, because she had met her. She loved her. She actually looked like someone my mom knew and admired. And so I knew she would be taken aback by the news. So I called and told her, and I told her about the wetness. And she said, Yolanda, you were crying. And I said, oh, wow, I didn't realize that emotion. And so after we hung up, I really started to think about, wow, I didn't know my body and mind was so disconnected that I didn't know I was crying. I was sad, right? My brain understood that this was a sad moment, this was a sad event, and this is a sad thing. However, in terms of processing that trauma of losing someone that was a part of my life and giving myself space and creating a soft space for me to grieve, even though it wasn't about length of time that I knew her, our paths crossed. So it was sad to see her depart. It was the strangest feeling to know that I had disconnected from my body so intensely, so deeply that I couldn't recognize tears. Now, had I cried ever before between the time of 3.5 years old and this particular moment of being approximately 30 something, early 30s, or maybe late 20s, late 20s and 3.5 years old, did I cry? Yeah, sure. But a lot of my emotion was controlled. So if I was crying, it was like I didn't control it. It just came out of me. But with this, and when you're processing trauma, sometimes you can be stuck. That can be stuck in your body. I had tears, years of tears stuck in my body that I hadn't processed. And so there was no more room for more tears, so they leaked out of my eye. And it was in that moment that I realized, okay, we've got to do something about this because it's not human to not feel. When you feeling, no matter the emotion, is expressive of being alive. It's you being alive. How wonderful is that? That your body and all your faculties can connect to each other, mind, body, and spirit, to express itself as alive. It's beautiful. And so as it relates to your healing journey, it's beautiful. And if in that beauty you need a break, think about it. When that, you probably can relate. If you're in a moment of, let's say you've never felt, or let's say you're a waterworks gal where you cry at the drop of a dime, that emotion flowing through you, sometimes that can feel exhausting. And I want to tell you that it's okay. It's okay to feel exhausted when you are working through your traumatic experiences. It's okay. Take the break. Take the break. Listen to your mind. Listen to the emotions that say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm raising the white flag. Hey, 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 see me here, see me tired, and do something about it. That's emotional too. It's an emotional thought. It's a way to expand our emotional intelligence and listen and tap in and tune in to what our emotions are trying to tell our body and mind to line up with, and spirit to line up with. So I'm going to ask you, what is your body telling you right now? What are your emotions trying to say? Where in your body are they trying to flow? Do you have a frog in your throat? Are your eyes leaking water that you don't understand why they're leaking water? When you realize and recognize where in your body your emotions are trying to flow, you can then let it. And letting it is a decision. That's the decision. Letting your emotions flow in a soft space so that you can pass through the exhaustion on your healing journey. You don't have to be tired. You don't have to stay in a tired place and just keep it moving. Our culture sometimes moves so fast that we tell ourselves that is the right move. You just keep it moving. And you do continue to move forward. But sometimes that moving forward in that healing space is a crawl. Sometimes that moving forward is a rest under a shaded tree. It's a pause. It's a closing your door and going into an office or going into your prayer closet, not even to say anything, but just to listen. Listen to your body. Listen to what God would be saying to you through the messages of your emotions. A lot of times we disconnect God from and spirit from our body, but he designed it. You are mechanically, carefully, intrinsically designed. And it is our responsibility to honor that knowledge that our body is holding straight from heaven, the wisdom from generations straight from heaven, and what is looking to communicate to you. So in that space, as you're recognizing where in your body does the energy of your emotions want to release from, consider how you might act that out. What does that look like for you? Does it look like sitting in your backyard? Does it look like going to the park and just watching trees and watching people live life and skating and whatever they're doing outside? Does it look like taking a swim? Does it look like reading a book? Does it look like watching the rain? Does it look like driving in your car, rolling down the windows and letting the wind mess up your hair? Whatever it looks like for you, do that. Unexhaust yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Have an unmuted conversation with yourself to relieve the exhaustion from your life in this moment, from this one thing. You don't have to notice all of the emotion passing through, just one place where it is stuck. Work through that. Do something about it. At the end of every podcast, one of the things that we do is a breathing exercise. And in reflection of how we can find an unmuted, soft space to relieve exhaustion of dealing with your healing journey and the trauma that you're uncovering, unlifting, unfolding, unpacking, we want to practice a breath work exercise. I want you to breathe in deeply, and then when you've gotten to your max capacity, take one more breath and then release it. Let your lungs totally exhale and deflate the air. And we're going to do that 2 times. Are you ready? Join in. And a deep breath in. Sometimes when you are breathing out and exhaling, make some noise. Your body might want you to relieve the exhaustion by making noise. Another deep breath in. How does that feel? Thank you for joining me in this soft space. I look forward to seeing you again real soon. In the meantime, stay unmuted, take care, and God bless.